just fell in love. I said, who is this? And I've been following you all along. So what we're actually here to talk about today, besides the history, our rich history and devotional service and testimony service, is really your testimony. And you told me that you grew up in the church, so you're no stranger to God. But where did you meet him again in life? Because you have an amazing testimony. Where did it all begin?
I was at Morgan actually. I'll tell the story. At that time it was late 90s or mid to late 90s. I was leaving high school, making my way to college. And I felt like I was a little bit too big for my britches. And so everything, when you get to be a certain age, you decide that you want to abandon everything that you know,
Everything.
and head and do what you feel is the rebellious thing to do, or my parents are not here, so I'm going to do what I want to do. And I had some very strict parents. I mean, they were strict enough. They had a good hold on me because I was already trying to be too fast when I was in New York to begin with. So they were just kind of have a hold on me, but then there was no hold. And so I was in another state, in another city, and that's kind of did what I wanted to do. And found myself with an incurable disease. In my second year of school. So the fact that I'm in my second year of school with an incurable disease, and now I have looming over my head whether my mortality is in question, because at this time, that's of course what was going on in the world. And because I was facing the insecurity about my own mortality, I believe that I had so much that I needed to do, and I just kept hearing God's voice very, very strongly. And it's probably even before you were at Morgan. It's my early years at Morgan, which are probably other people's younger years or where they weren't.
Right.
But it was 1997, 1998, and I was a junior on paper at Morgan, and I was
right.
The Holy Ghost said, do a gospel concert at the Christian Center. And so we did a gospel concert at the Christian Center. And to this day, there are people who went to that concert in 1998 at the Christian Center, at the junior class gospel concert, that come up to me even today and say, had I not gone to that concert, I would not have known God. Wouldn't have had any Christ. I wouldn't have had an encounter with the Holy Ghost. And it was at that point that I knew that God had a trajectory for me. But the trajectory was only musical. I didn't realize that there was more. Fast forward a couple of years, of course I have this incurable disease, and I'm of course taking medication for it, but for a time I wasn't taking it. It was just something I just wasn't doing. I lost focus on what it was that I was supposed to do. Went on an international trip with Morgan's choir, came back and found out that I was pretty much in a bad way. Got rushed to the hospital. One of my line brothers took me to the hospital, and got me there within like minutes of my life.
Wow.
Like the doctor do not come. Had you gotten here like a half hour later, we would have been putting you life support because you were just and it was at that time that the doctors were like, well, the good news is that you're still here. That you may not be here very long. Because we very much with where you are, and for no hospital language, when hospitals tell you that they're going to send you home so that you can be comfortable, comfortable usually means they don't expect you to, and so they gave my mother 6 months. They told my mother that she would need to find hospice for me. So that's hospice, comfortable. I had punctured lungs, so of course I'm a singer with punctured lungs, and pneumonia, and kidney failure, and all these other things, and it was really, really bad. It was really, really bad. And a church member of the church that I was a member of at the time, community church in Baltimore, let me stay at her house. I'll never forget her. She was a wonderful sister in my church, and she let me stay at her house. And so I was taking a bath one night while taking all this medication, and I was in the tub, and I don't know whether it was that I was having a dream that it was happening, or whether or not it was something that actually happened. But I just kept hearing songs that I had sung in my lifetime. And for those that might watch this on a replay, or those of you that are on now, the Holy Ghost will give you a soundtrack for your life that you will recognize why you have learned these songs and why they've become close to your heart. So you'll now know them.
Yeah.
And the track helps to play back who God is in your life. So in 2001, I recorded a song that said, the lyrics of the song was, I know I can make it through this storm. See, the problem is when I'm going through this trial, I don't believe I'll ever make it out. But when I think about all that God saved me, I'm reassured that everything will be all right. I'll make it through the storm. Then I went to another saying, God is sovereign. He can do whatever he wants to do, when he wants to do, how he wants to do it, because God is sovereign. And so because God is sovereign, he has the ability to either save me from the situation of being dead for 6 months, or he can remove me from my life and my assignment will be up and I won't be here any longer. But I cried in that, and then Great Is Thy Faithfulness was obviously a song that I sung while I was at Morgan. And that text is, great is thy faithfulness, morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I've needed, thy hand has provided, great is thy faithfulness unto me. So if God is going to provide for me daily, while I'm in even my darkest moment, then I'll make it through the storm. And I know that whatever God does while I'm in this situation, I'm going to make it out. I'll make it out. I might not have everything that I had coming in, but I will make it. Didn't realize that that worship moment in the bathtub was for me to go to the hospital like within a couple of days. So they put me on this antibiotic for like 16 days. I had taken it for 14 days. I go to the doctor. I walk in. The nurse practitioner says, "What are you taking?" I'm taking. She's like, "Stop taking it."
Wow.
Like, "But what's the problem?" She said, "Well, are you okay?" And I was like, "I am." She was like, "Stop taking it." Then she takes my temperature. My temperature was 107.
What? Okay.
I'm now rushed the west side of Baltimore to go to Mount Sinai Hospital.
Mount Sinai.
Now I'm having end-stage renal failure and neurological failure, but I walked in. So they're looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, how are you walking in?
How are you doing this?
And so I literally went through that. And what happened was the medication I was taking was an antibiotic, but it was toxic to me. So it was actually changed. It, like, my skin was the color of my sweater.
Wow.
And I wasn't well. And so they finally changed the regimen, realized that nothing really had happened. Like, although it was 107 degrees, that was my temperature. Nothing was really wrong. Nothing neurological was wrong. And so, of course, one thing was medical, and then something else turned out to be a mental situation. So I've always had this medical diagnosis and this mental diagnosis happening at the same time I'm walking through. But I was still dying.
Wow.
It was still like, you have 6 months to live. So I was like, okay, well, and they said, Mr. Austin, we don't know, but you probably won't be able to sing like you did before. And I was like, okay. And the testimony really was, you won't be able to sing like you did before you came into the hospital. I don't remember what I sang like before.
Wow.
All I know is that whatever I sang like after I lived beyond the 6 months is not what I sounded like before.
Right. But God.
Right. So the real testimony is I lived 21 years. And now it's 20 years after they said 6 months.
Wow.
And what they told me that I shouldn't be able to do, I've been doing very well for 22 years.
I mean, not very well is an understatement. Very well is an understatement. I love your humility. Guys, what is the name of your latest single?
It's called Come Fill This Place. Come
Fill This Place. Where can we find Come Fill This Place?
Anywhere, actually. It's on iTunes, it's on Spotify, it's on iTunes, it's on Apple Music for streaming and purchase. It's on YouTube. You can just look it up on Come Fill This Place, Ken Austin Jr. It's called Come Fill This Place Radio Edit. There's actually an extended version, and I will release it actually in a couple of months. I think I'm probably release it probably before the year is over, so people can hear the whole song. The story even behind that song is, while we were in the midst of the pandemic, and like, I just felt like the earth was missing the presence of God to wash through it what God wanted to have happen versus what we wanted to have happen. So fill this place is fill us, saturate us, remove from us what we don't need, and then just fill us you, so that all we have is what you want us to do and not who we are for ourselves. And it says, "Oh Lord, come fill this place." So it's just a worship anthem, a praise and worship anthem. I had it in my head. I said, okay, let's get this out to let the people. And it's been doing well in a sense. I've actually performed it more or ministered more churches, and I'm just waiting for God to do what God's going to do with it. I'm not looking for something fast. I'm looking for it to grow within the grace of which God will have it to grow.
Yeah. So I have some